Welcome back to another Spirit Island video. In this video, we're going to be continuing our series about Is This Spirit for You? In this video, we're going to be talking about Eyes Watch from the Trees. Now, Eyes Watch is primarily a defensive spirit that also generates a lot of fear. And whenever it uses a defensive ability, it gets to gather a Dahan in that land. As a result, the Dahan will fight back and will kill any invaders in that land, assuming the damage is correct. Now, how does that look? We have board E here. If, for instance, we are defending our E7, let's say we have a defend 3, we can then gather one of the adjacent Dahan in that land. Now we have that land fully defended, and then now the Dahan is going to fight back and end up killing the invaders in that land. Looking at the starting summary, it is very low offense. You have a single offensive card, Mysterious Abductions. You have a little bit more control, and that is via our Eerie Noises. We also have Whispered Guidance, which is a way to move Dahan, and that's with control. We have a lot of fear, and that is going to be generating from our Eerie Noises, our Abductions, our Whispered Guidance, and of course our Innate. And then we have a lot of defense, and that is from our final card in our hand, Boon of Watchful Guarding, as well as our Innate. Utility, the Spirit Board says 0. I kind of consider Boon of Watchful Guarding as utility, but yeah, currently it technically doesn't have any, but I would mark this up as a utility. So flipping the Spirit Board over, we have a special rule. It says Dahan Trust the Watchers, and this is something that I talked about earlier, where whenever one of your powers adds defend to a land, you may gather up to one Dahan into that land, and that is your innate, as well as your Boon of Watchful Guarding, or any minors or majors that you pick up in the power decks. This is a spirit that if you love playing to the tempo of the adversary, if you love defending lands, gathering Dahan and having your Dahan counterattack, this is the spirit to pick. This is not a spirit that uses proactive damage effects. You only really have one card that does that. So this is going to be completely different compared to a spirit like Whirlwind that was placing presence down, pushing things very, I guess, ahead of the tempo of the invaders. Eyes plays behind the tempo. Eyes is a 0 to 1, and that means Eyes is going to be placing 0 presence on Reclaim, a 2 presence growth option, and a 1 presence growth option that has energy and cards. This is very similar to the Heat growth pattern, except Eyes is a little bit more tighter on energy with G3, and also has a little bit more freedom with your G2 placement. Looking at the tracks, you end at 4/4 with 4 elements on the tracks. I really like Eyes. There's plenty of different ways to play the spirit. I do have an Eyes guide, so give that a guide a look if you've not seen it. The main opening I talk about is rushing down to 4 plays. I find that to be very, very favorable, but there are some major builds where you can kind of go up to 2 energy or go up to that plant and then kind of tech down to 3 plays. That also works. And we briefly talked about this earlier, but you have Mischief and Sabotage as your innate power, and this is a defensive ability that also has a lot of fear. When you max it out, you're going to be getting Defend 12 and 5 fear. So if you like spirits that generate a lot of fear, Eyes is one of those spirits. It defends lands, generates a lot of fear, and then the Dahan counterattack and kill the invaders. I mentioned earlier, there's plenty of builds. So if you like majors, if you like minors, both of those are going to be builds that you can tech towards depending on your drafts and what your strategy is. Now, this is a spirit that favors defensive powers. So if you don't like drafting the defense, then this is a spirit that you probably shouldn't pick. And mainly that's because that special rule is allowing us to gather those Dahan in every time you play a defense. So like looking at these cards, this is the card I'm going to most likely pick just because it's defensive. Or I'd pick Treacherous, but Treacherous is just a very strong card in general. Now, I try to not talk about power in these in these types of videos, but I'm going to mention it here. Eyes is a little bit over the power curve compared to the other two spirits. Games tend to be a little bit easier with this spirit, and that's just because it's a little bit stronger than I think the intended curve. So when you're playing the spirit, you may win more games than you may normally do. Or if you're struggling against a certain adversary or matchup, try playing this spirit because it's a little bit stronger. You might be able to get over that hurdle. Overall, this is my favorite spirit in the Horizon expansion. I really love the defensive fear feel. I love the elements that you play around, moon, plant, and then air. Air is that one element that I barely touch, so this is a spirit that I kind of get to play with those types of cards. If you like this video, like, subscribe for more content. I will see you guys in the next video.